Ian from Ireland. What are your thoughts on John Cena's first year as WWE Champion? Would you compare it to Triple H's infamous Reign of Terror? You would not be asking me this question if you had lived through Triple H's Reign of Terror. No, I think it's apples and oranges. Triple H was all over the show during that time and was a bore for most of it. There's a reason Pat Patterson reported back to Vince McMahon when Vince McMahon sent him out on this expedition. And I did a whole segment on this, and the video's up on YouTube as well. This was back in 2004. This is what led to Pat Patterson temporarily for about 6 months leaving the company. Was because of Triple H. And because he was tasked with going out to the house shows and taking reports and almost like a fact-finding mission. Why is business down? Ratings are down. The Raw brand was just not doing as well. And he came back to Vince McMahon, and he wasn't shy about going to Vince and being honest about his findings, even though Triple H was his son-in-law and he was management. And I think, if I remember the story, Triple H was even in the room at the time, and he told Vince what he didn't want to hear. He said, listen, the answer is Triple H. He's not the draw that we think he is, and he's hurting the show. The push, the hard push of Triple H was hurting the brand and hurting the show. And that's just one example of what was going on back then and what other people were saying, not just me or Meltzer or whoever. I mean, this is what was going on at the time, and I believe it. I believe that Triple H, it got to a point where he was having a negative impact on Monday Night Raw, and one of the main reasons why business started to suffer because of it, and why the show began to suffer. He was so dominant at the expense of others that could have been elevated. Triple H was always the guy who worked with the guy. When he was positioned as the guy, it just did not work. John Cena became the guy in WWE. Now, as the years went on, you could argue that they pushed Cena too hard. He was pushed to the detriment of others who maybe they could have been elevated. And don't even get me started on the burying of the Nexus guys that year at SummerSlam. But his first year as champion, let's take a look at this. He beat JBL at WrestleMania. He had that bloody, an I Quit match, I think, with JBL at Judgment Day, which was great. And credit to JBL. He put Cena over the way that he was supposed to. He put him over strong, and he put him over credibly. Because his time as champion was over. It was coming to an end. He put Cena over the way that Eddie Guerrero put JBL over the year before. Then Cena got traded to Raw, and he worked with Chris Jericho, who was on his way out of the company the first time. He was taking that first sabbatical. He was gone for 2 years, so he was on his way out, and he knew it. So he put Cena over on the way out. The veteran, put the newer guy over like he should have, and then Cena worked with Kurt Angle, and Angle put him over as well. Angle was already a made guy. So this period was all about giving John Cena credibility as the champion, giving him big names he could beat to make him more credible. Triple H was already credible in that 2002 to 2003 period. He was already a made guy. Cena wasn't. So it was important that he pick up wins against these people. And then Edge cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase. He won the title. He should have kept the championship until WrestleMania. He was having a noticeable impact on ratings on Raw. The numbers were up when Edge won the title at the beginning of 2006. At the very least, I would have kept that title on him until WrestleMania and have Cena Edge in a rematch, and Cena wins the belt back at WrestleMania like, he beat Triple H. So instead of retaining it over Triple H, he would win it back from Edge. I still say to this day that was a mistake. Taking it away from him only 3 weeks later from Edge, that was a mistake. But then Cena went to WrestleMania, and he beat Triple H. So I didn't really see anything wrong with John Cena's first year as champion outside of the fans, starting the whole "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" thing. They started to rebel against him because he was being pushed so hard. And that kind of goes to the RSPW stuff. When I was doing the RSPW Rewind earlier, and I was talking about that one post from 19 years ago, in the year 2000, when that person made a post saying, how come, whatever the title was, how come everybody hates the top guy? Why is the top guy always so hated? This is not some new phenomenon that's only happened in the last decade. It's been going on for decades. It's been going on for years in wrestling. So people started to rebel against Cena. Outside of that, I didn't see anything wrong with his first year as champion. But I don't remember him being all over the shows to the degree that Triple H was and just putting people down at every single turn, even on promos, putting people down at every single turn. I get that Triple H was a heel. Cena was a babyface. Two totally different roles. I get that. Triple H was a heel. So you kind of do things like that, but he would put guys down on promos and then go out and beat them and make them look like total jabrones. Case in point, Booker T. That was far more damaging to the company than John Cena's first year as champion. And Cena went on to become, an important draw for them, where if it wasn't for him being on a lot of those live events in later years, you could see a difference in how many tickets they sold. If it wasn't for him, they would have been in even worse shape than they were. Cena was a draw. Not a draw like The Rock, not a draw like Steve Austin at his peak or Hulk Hogan or anybody like that. In terms of just, the business was different. They just weren't doing the kind of business they were at the peak of those guys. But he was a draw. Every era has its draw. Cena was that guy. The problem is, by then, they had already chased off a lot of their audience from the Attitude Era. A lot of those casual fans were gone. Really, they lost them not long after WCW died. And Stone Cold was turned heel at WrestleMania. And then you could see they started to go down, 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 down. Things would have been far worse without John Cena around. But they definitely ran too long with Super Cena at the expense of others who could have gotten over. But now we're talking more like 2007, 2008, 2009. Definitely not his first year as champion, though.